And so, the next one I want to talk about is one that we're going to delve into a little bit. I would like parents to learn, and this takes an incredible level of self-regulation on our part, to learn to notice what kids do right a whole lot more than how much we notice what kids do wrong. It's easy to get into critical patterns, isn't it? And yet there is some science, there is some research here that's pretty darned important that everybody probably ought to know about. And that is that when we notice what people do right, and when we make positive communication the priority over negative communication, it changes the dynamic. In fact, for every one time we hear a negative, we hold on to that negative a little bit. The research says in truly high-functioning families, in truly high-functioning teams of adults, in truly high-functioning faculties or work groups, in truly high-functioning classrooms, there is at least a 6-to-1 ratio of positive communication and positive noticing instead of negative noticing and critical communication. Really? Whenever I think about this, before I even knew what the research was, and if you'd like to look at the research, look at Marshall Losada or Barbara Fredrickson. They have done some absolutely impeccable work in this area, as have others. If you want to look at the research, take a look at them, but I like to look at real life some days, and I'm thinking of one of the best kindergarten teachers I ever knew. In a district not far from here, a whole bunch of her friends had told me what a good kindergarten teacher she is. And so one day I went into her classroom and I said, "Can I just watch for a little while?" And she kindly said yes. I sat in her classroom. I watched her. She had kids working in little groups and at little centers, and sometimes they were making transitions from one to the other. And she would wander around the classroom and she would smile at kids and encourage them and pat them on the back. Sometimes she would say, "That's a beautiful drawing. What's that going to be?" Or, "Oh, what pretty colors those are." Or, "Oh, your listening is so good today." And every once in a while, there was some kid, kind of like you, and she'd have to say, "Uh-oh, not here, not now. Can you save that for recess?" She would have to correct the behavior sometimes because these are kindergartners. But she seemed to do a lot more noticing what they were doing right. Well, I'm kind of a data junkie. I like to see the science behind things. I designed a research experiment right there in her classroom. I drew a line down the middle of a piece of paper. On one side, I wrote the word encouragements. On the other side, I wrote the word discouragements. And every time she patted some kid, gave him a smile, gave him a little hug, said a nice word, used some specific noticing, I put a little check mark under encouragements. And every time she had to say "not here, not now," save that for later, I put a little discouragement check mark. I watched for 45 minutes, and then I added them up. In this wonderful place of learning, where the kids love to be and where the teacher loves to teach, there was a 13-to-1 ratio of positive noticing to negative noticing. I did not at that point in time know the research that says in high-functioning teams, in high-functioning classrooms, in high-functioning families, in high-functioning groups or organizations, there is somewhere between a 6-to-1 and 13-to-1 ratio. She was at the exact upper end of these optimal high-performing teams. And kids learned in that classroom. How do you train yourself to do this, I wonder? Well, that can be hard work. But one of the ways is to learn a technique called specific positive noticing. It happens to be one of the most powerful behavior shaping techniques known to man. And some people call this one of the pieces of attribution theory. It's when you use something that's different than general praise. General praise sounds like, "Nice guy, way to go, good job, good effort, way to be, great kid, love to have you." There's a place for all of that. And there's something more specific and more powerful called specific positive noticing. It's when you look at a kid and catch him or her doing something well. And you say something like this, "Hey, sweetie, I saw you out in the playground with your friend. She fell down. She was so sad. But you stayed right with her and took care of her until she was okay and got up and you went running off to play." how did you learn to be such a good friend? And then I get a look just like this one. I don't know. Which is exactly the kind of response that I'm hoping for. I'm hoping she doesn't have a quick and easy answer. I'm hoping that she thinks about this many times during the day. Whoa, I did that? I wonder how I learned that. I wonder how I got that way. I wonder how I developed that pattern. That's called metacognition. And every single time she sees that picture in her head, it reinforces that pattern. So, let's take a look at this writing. You know, that first paragraph that you have right there, that first sentence in that paragraph, that is one of the clearest, absolutely best introductory sentences I have seen all year long. How did you learn to use words so clearly? I don't know. And she thinks about it. What's the power of specific positive noticing? And could you use it a lot? And could you include it within the frame of a 6-to-1 ratio? Has anyone ever had a teenage boy or girl? If you can manage the 6-to-1 ratio during the teenage years, you're a master. Does anyone have a spouse, or did you once have one? I wonder what the ratio of positive noticing to negative noticing might be. I wonder if we're adhering and adjusting our behavior to good science that says the best relationships, the best teams, the best families, the best classrooms, the best organizationships will have at least a 6-to-1 ratio. One woman came up to me and she said, I had to struggle with this the other day. I said, okay, what's your story? I love the stories people share with me. She said, my husband, I've been crabbing at him for the last 6 months to fix the screen door. And finally, just the other day, I think he put it off because I was crabbing at him so much. He finally got around to doing it. He fixed it. I came home. I saw it. My first impulse was to say, for crying out loud, 6 months I've been asking you to fix that thing. The thing's been broken for 6 months, but waiting and waiting. Finally you got around to do it. But no, she said, I remembered what you said about that ratio and about specific noticing. And I stopped and I slowed myself down. And she said, I'm going to use that little thing on him. She took a little breath and she found that little happy place in her heart. That's self-regulation, isn't it? She found that little happy place and she said, hey, sweetie, you fixed the back door. Oh, look, it swings perfectly and the screen is fixed. How did you learn to be so good at fixing things? Oh, it takes a little self-regulation to go there, doesn't it? We can practice specific positive noticing with the people we work with our own children in our home, with our spouses, with our mothers and fathers, with our brothers and sisters, with our own relationships. But it takes an extraordinary degree of self-regulation to use this consistently the way great teachers in all phases of life use this skill. Specific positive noticing reinforces the desirable behavior without general praise. It directs the kid's attention or the adult's attention to the behavior that you really like. It builds a self-concept. It adds to self-efficacy. It is one of the most powerful behavior-shaping tools known to man.